Hey, everybody out there in podcast land. Welcome to the latest episode of Sports Frenzy 2.0, episode 32 of 2022, taping here Wednesday night, August the 10th. This will hit Thursday morning, the 11th. I am the Maestro, Kevin Crane. I am doing a solo show this week. The Conquistador schedule bit him in the ass. Could not find time for the podcast this week. Of course, it hurts me, wounds me deeply, but in the end, who the hell cares? For one of the last times in 2022, we will be talking about baseball here in the first segment. Yes, football is starting to get going. It's starting to wind up. We'll talk about that a little bit more in the second segment. Full slate of preseason games starting this weekend. We've already got drama. We've got fights. We've got position battles. And of course, the Bears have found multiple ways through bad luck, bad management, to already fuck their season up before it even starts. But again, we'll get to that in segment 2. First up, another Chicago team that always finds new and exciting ways to fuck things up. That would be my Chicago Cubs. Just finished up a 3-game set with one of the few teams that is actually worse than them, the Washington Nationals. Of course, demoralized after trading away one of the greatest young prospects in MLB history, Juan Soto. So even the lowly Cubs were able to take 2 out of 3 against the Nationals. As of today, 45-65, barely hanging on to third place in the NL Central. 15.5 games behind the St. Louis Cardinals, who, by the way, Major League Baseball announced this week the Cubs will be playing in the London series in June of 2023. Yay! So the Cubs can suck on multiple continents, not just multiple countries. You know, every once in a while they get up to Toronto and lose up there. Now the Cubs can suck in multiple countries. And then, of course, as I tape this tomorrow night, Thursday, August the 11th, is the annual Field of Dreams game featuring, try not to throw up in your mouth, kids, the Cubs and the Reds. Wow. Yes, I know these are long-time historic teams, but wow. Wow, this is a bad matchup for Major League Baseball. This is not going to be, in my opinion at least, a widely watched game on Thursday night, August the 11th. One bit of, you could say, good news. I don't think it's really that great. You're just washing your hands of a stupid, awful mistake you made a long time ago. But the Cubs front office came out and said Jason Heyward will not be on the roster for 2023, which basically means they are going to eat the final year of that mammoth, ridiculous, stupid deal they gave him 7 years ago. Yes, an 8-year deal, but like I said, they're going to eat that last year in 2023. I understand why they're doing it, but that has got to go down. Met fans, Major League Baseball in general, makes fun of the Mets for the Bobby Bonilla deal, and we'll talk about that a little more in a few minutes. But the Jason Heyward contract for the Cubs has to go down as one of the most pathetic, awful free agent signings of all time. And yes, they're still going to say, well, he inspired the team in that rain delay in Game 7 of the World Series. And that's worth everything. Look at his statistics over 7 years with the Chicago Cubs. You tell me if he was worth 23, 24 million on average a year for the numbers he put up. He scammed the Cubs. And I know if it wasn't the Cubs, it was going to be somebody else. Awful, awful contract. I hate to take the hit on the last year, but you almost have to. He's worthless. He's not doing anything. And in baseball years, he's not that old. He's only in his early 30s. That's why the Cubs signed him to an 8-year deal. They thought they were getting a bargain. They weren't signing an Albert Pujols type deal where they were going to have him into his 40s. No, Jason Heyward just sucks. Wouldn't it be great if we could all get $23 million a year to suck? That's why baseball has to get rid of guaranteed contracts. They never will. The union will never let it happen. Down the road, there will be some kind of financial implosion if they keep giving out stupid, awful, franchise crippling deals like this one. All right, as I mentioned, Dave's not here this week, so I will speak on his behalf. For his White Sox, they were my pick this week in our Sports Frenzy baseball competition, so I'm rooting for them just for this week. They are right now 56-54. The AL Central is turning into a very interesting race right now, not only for the division lead, but still got a wild card hope or two in there. White Sox 56-54, as I mentioned, right now, 1.5 games back as I record of the Cleveland Guardians and the Minnesota Twins, who are in a virtual tie for first place. Like I said, the AL is fun right now in terms of the wild card. Yes, the Yankees and the Astros are dominating, and they will get the 2 byes. Now, it's interesting to watch those two fight it out for who's going to get the number 1 seed because, odds are they're going to meet somewhere in the playoffs, somewhere down the road. Who's going to be the one to get the home field there? Yankees scuffling a bit as of late, but you've got the Blue Jays. You have got the Rays. You have got the resurgent Orioles now in the mix, the Mariners. And like I mentioned, Twins, White Sox, and Guardians fighting for 1 division, 3 wild cards. Now, I wish Dave was here to discuss this with me. Kansas City reliever Amir Garrett. Last week, we didn't get a chance to discuss this on the August the 3rd show. But the night before, Amir Garrett threw a drink at a White Sox fan who was heckling him in the bullpen. I know I shouldn't like this. I know I shouldn't in any way, shape, or form encourage this. But you know what? This is what you get. You fostered this environment between professional athletes and the fans. You charge so much for ticket prices. The only people getting in are rich people, the people that can afford $18 beers, so they're getting liquored up and they're feeling entitled like I've spent $300, $400 between my ticket, food, drink. I'm going to call out these pampered, overpriced athletes. Am I saying it's right? Absolutely not. I am saying this is the environment that has been fostered with high ticket prices, alcohol sales, rich, entitled people who are the only ones that can afford it. Former White Sox pitcher Chris Sale, and of course you have heard Dave lament over the last couple seasons. Well, not really lament. He's actually kind of giddy about the fact that they got rid of Chris Sale, ecstatic that they don't have to deal with him anymore. And Boston Red Sox fans are probably dropping their heads into their hands in agony and disgust, as they're the ones that are stuck with bad luck Chris, as we'll call him. Of course, he comes back off the disabled list, takes a line drive 2 games in, fractures his finger, heads back to the IL again, and now, because he fell off his bike, screwed up his wrist, had to have surgery, out for the rest of the season. Yes, the Red Sox are fading fast, but wow. Chris Sale might give Jason Heyward a run for his money when it comes to one of the worst signings or trades ever, at least in this current era of baseball. At least the Cubs didn't have to give anything up except for money. Boston gave up assets, took on the contract. I don't know if they re-signed him or extended him or not. I'm sorry. I can't remember for sure. But White Sox fans, despite the fact this year hasn't quite gone as they had hoped, got to be happy still to this day they got rid of Chris Sale when they did. Now they've got bad news on the injury front with a current player. Tim Anderson, we've talked about him a lot recently. He's tempestuous. He is ornery. He is arrogant. To me, I don't know if he's worth the trouble. I know he's a 300 hitter. I know he's still young. I know he's got a lot of potential and a lot of upside. A lot of people say he's a great team leader, but I don't know if he's worth the headaches. Of course, he was just serving a 2-game suspension for making contact with an umpire. And then this past Saturday night, I believe they were playing the Rangers, on a check swing, injures his hand. It looks like he is going to be out now for the remainder of the regular season, at least. That is a severe, significant blow to the White Sox hopes of getting into the wild card hunt or the AL Central title hunt. Now, we mentioned Bobby Bonilla earlier. Again, talking about the connection between memorabilia, sports memorabilia, crazy, stupid money that people have now, only a select few. When we were talking about the whole Amir Garrett situation, here's 2 examples of people who have way too much money and time on their hands. Think again, I say this every month or two when some story like this pops up. Think about what the money involved here could have gone to. Think about the people it could have fed, the people that could have got clothes out of it, the kids that could have gotten tuition for college out of it. Now, the first one seems very, very insignificant in comparison to the second one. But first up, Bobby Bonilla. We talked about him in that horrific contract he signed with the Mets that pays him over $1 million every year. I believe he's still got another 10 or 11 years to go on it. Don't quote me on that. I know we talked about it a couple weeks ago, so go back in the archives, dig it up for me, and then I'll give you the specific date. But I know he's still got a while to go getting the yearly payments. As we all know, Bobby Bonilla Day is a fun little baseball holiday those of us in the know like to celebrate. Well, that contract that Bobby Bonilla signed with the Mets sold at auction this past week for $180,000. Now, of course, he's getting paid a lot more than that each and every year from the Mets. Now, Max Scherzer, currently playing for the Mets, has a similar type deal, but I think the Nationals are the team on the hook for that, not the Mets. I think the Mets owe him his yearly salary, but there is some kind of a perpetuity clause in there that pays him X amount of money going forward after he retires, like Bobby Bonilla. Now, if you think $180,000 is crazy for a couple pieces of paper, how about the legendary T206 Honus Wagner baseball card? Supposedly only about 50 exist. That also just sold. Don't think it went on auction. I think it was a private sale. Don't quote me either way, but you can quote me on the final sale price. $7.25 million. That's the one that makes me wonder, what are we doing as a society? And anybody who knows me knows I am a capitalist. I am all for democracy. I'm all for capitalism. But sometimes I wonder if I have gone down the right path with that line of thinking, because the rich people in this world don't seem to do that much good with their money. There's a difference between enjoying your money and pissing your money away. And this, to me, is pissing your money away. $7.25 million on a baseball card. Again, think of all the people that could have been fed, the people who could have gotten houses, clothes, tuition for their children. And again, I'm kind of being contrarian because I believe in capitalism. But again, we have gotten so far off the rails when it comes to the few that have all the money and how they waste it. And here again, another prime example. Let us celebrate last year's MVP. Once again, Shohei Ohtani. New York, the press, the media in New York, of course. Oh, no, Aaron Judge is the MVP. Okay, he might be the MVP. He might hit 60 home runs. Nobody does what Shohei Ohtani does. And we just last night got another example of it. Now, there are a couple Negro League players who also fit the bill here. I want to give them mention and give them props because we've had this debate, this discussion over the years. The Baseball Hall of Fame is accepting those benchmarks and those records as well. So when I say Shohei Ohtani and Babe Ruth, please keep in mind there are a couple other players from the Negro Leagues who fit this criteria as well. But Shohei Ohtani just won his 10th game as a pitcher for the LA Angels, and they stink. So just the fact he's won 10 games as a pitcher for them is amazing. We all know he is also a phenomenal hitter. So winning his 10th game, he and Babe Ruth are the only two players qualified again to have 10 home runs and 10 wins as a pitcher in the same season. Shohei Ohtani, Babe Ruth. And he's going to be a free agent after the 2023 season. Oh, if he doesn't get injured, and we know that happens a lot if you're on the LA Angels roster, but if he doesn't get hurt, I'm hearing people saying he could end up being the first $60 million a year player. I hate the economics of sports, but if anybody deserves the money, it is Shohei Ohtani. And then finally, I'm torn on this. This person, this legend, always causes me problems because he doesn't want to let bygones be bygones. He's bitter to this day. He's still upset. And in some rights and in some instances, he's correct. Pete Rose, of course, this past week, back with the Phillies to celebrate their championship team from the 80s. And of course, this is a problem with the media too. I'm not trying to absolve Pete Rose of anything that he's done. He is prickly. He is gruff. He is abrasive. But he is also arguably the greatest pure hitter in baseball history, maybe along with Tony Gwynn. Rod Carew comes to mind. The guys that you knew every year would hit 300, would give you everything they had at the plate, would figure out a way to get on base. No, they didn't smash 60 home runs a year. But Pete Rose also was a spark, an inspiration, a fire plug. He energized any team he was on, whether it was Philadelphia or it was the Big Red Machine in Cincinnati. I think Pete Rose should be in the Hall of Fame. Put him in another wing along with the steroid guys. But it is ridiculous that Pete Rose, Barry Bonds, Mark McGwire, Roger Clemens can't get in the Hall of Fame. Again, qualify it, put an asterisk next to their name, do what you've got to do. But they've got to get in the Baseball Hall of Fame. Shoeless Joe Jackson, another one, going way back. But of course, reporters like they are now, reporters who've got to try to make a name for themselves, who have got to try to dig up dirt on anybody and everybody because all they care about are sound bites. Because it's 24-hour news. Like my man, the Conquistador, always says, damn Ted Turner to hell for coming up with 24-hour news in the form of CNN. And look at the monster he created. So Pete Rose can't even show up for the celebration for that 80s Phillies championship team without being peppered with questions from a couple reporters about statutory rape allegations from the 1970s. I am not condoning, obviously, or saying anything one way or the other about the situation itself. But what I'm saying is, if the legal system has not found him guilty, if the legal system has not prosecuted him, what the hell? I will side with Pete Rose on this. And you guys out there in podcast land can hate me for saying this. I think it makes you snowflakes. I think it makes you too sensitive. But here's the thing. If he wasn't found guilty in a court of law, if he wasn't prosecuted, if he wasn't sued 50 years ago, I will side with Pete Rose on this. Why are you bringing it up now, especially within the circumstances, the celebration of the 80s Philadelphia Phillies championship team. And all you guys and gals who love scandal, who sit in your mom's basement, and all you do all day is post negative crap on social media, I'm sure you're loving that. 50 years ago. Here's an idea. Let it go. Check out the weekend edition, by the way. I've got a rant for you about how Hollywood and celebrities get away with this kind of stuff, but somehow Pete Rose can't. He's forced to relive it until the day he dies. But we'll talk about Anne Heche and poor, pitiful Anne, and how she could have killed multiple people, being as reckless as humanly possible, and idiots like Alec Baldwin come out and support her. Finally, switching gears to basketball, one headline this week, of course, still staying negative because I can't stand Kevin Durant now. I used to like him. I used to really like Kevin Durant. I cannot stand Kevin Durant anymore. Now he's come out. He's already requested a trade out of New Jersey, out of Brooklyn. Sorry. I'm a Dr. J fan, so I still remember when they were the New Jersey Nets. Now the Brooklyn Nets, of course. He created the mess. He created the mess. He wanted Kyrie Irving. He wanted James Harden. He wanted Steve Nash. Now he says he wants out, and now he tells the owner, Joe Tsai, he says, you either want me or you want Steve Nash and the GM, Sean Marks. Again, the arrogance of these entitled millionaire athletes drives me insane. You signed a contract. Kevin Durant just signed a 4-year extension, and now he says, I want to trade. You should be able to sue Kevin Durant. You should be able to sue him, say, no, now you have to sit out for 4 years, and we don't have to pay you, and we get a draft pick in return. You entitled prick. Kevin Durant was the spearhead. He got paid a full year by the Nets to not play as he rehabbed his injury from his last year with the Golden State Warriors. And now he's got the audacity, the gall, to demand a trade and then give an ultimatum. Because that's worked so well here the last couple years, where he's been dictating the rules. Him and Kyrie Irving. Get this guy. We don't need a coach, really, but bring in Steve Nash. We can work with him. We can run him over, leave tire tracks on his back. Here's the funny thing. Kevin Durant probably won't get traded. So what happens when we get to the regular season, the 22-23 season for the NBA, and he's still on the Nets? Does he refuse to play? Because I think the Nets can then say, we're not paying you. Now, his new teammate, Ben Simmons, went through this with the 76ers, ironically, and is suing to get back pay because of the same situation. Ben Simmons didn't want to play for the Sixers. They didn't play him, but they didn't pay him either. And now he thinks he should get paid? Contracts work both ways. If you do not provide the services that you were supposed to based on the contract you signed, you don't get the money. Kevin Durant has destroyed his legacy, in my opinion. And I hope he sits for the next year or two and whines and cries, tries to sue, bitches and pisses and moans, and I hope it all fails miserably and blows up in his face. Next up, football, the NFL, coming up next, kids. I'm the Maestro. Stay tuned.
Hello, friends. Are you tired of the boring sports analysis you get from the major outlets? If so, join the Maestro and the Conquistador for a riveting discussion of all sports topics on Sports Frenzy 2.0. Available on Spotify, Google, Apple, and wherever podcasts are available.
Hey, everybody, welcome back. Sports Frenzy 2.0. Taping here August the 10th, 2022. This will hit tomorrow morning, the 11th. Going solo this week, I am the Maestro, Kevin Crane. NFL in the second segment this week for one of the last times in 2022. Of course, as the season gets going, we will move the NFL up to its proper position at the head of each and every episode through the rest of the year. All right, we've been talking ad nauseum about the Deshaun Watson situation. Of course, I think Roger Goodell did the right thing. I still don't understand how he appoints a woman to put down the initial punishment, recommend the initial punishment for Deshaun Watson. He had his bases all covered. How could he look bad doing that? And then she comes out with a light, almost trivial penalty of 6 games. So he has to come out. And of course, the players union loved it and said, yes, we recommend the NFL go along with this recommendation. Goodell, actually showing some sanity, says, no, we're appealing. This is not right. So he appoints former New Jersey Attorney General Peter C. Harvey. He will be hearing the Deshaun Watson appeal on behalf of the NFL. Goodell supposedly wants 1 year. I can't argue with that. I can't, especially the way Cleveland worked that contract and circumvented any possible suspension. Even a year suspension doesn't cost Deshaun Watson that much. Now, if they throw in a monetary fine, which is possible, which could still happen, then maybe it'll hurt a little bit more. Of course, the Chicago Bears have found new and exciting ways to screw over their fans, including me and the Conquistador. Now, of course, this is just bad luck. This is football, but a couple weeks ago we told you we thought maybe the Bears had come up with a nice little steal of a deal with the Patriots, trading a 7th-round pick to get N'Keal Harry, a young, promising wide receiver. Of course, now this past week, word comes out he has got a high ankle sprain. Who knows? Who knows when he's coming back from that? High ankle sprains are a beast, a monster to get through. They are usually lingering issues. I would be shocked if we see N'Keal Harry in the first month of the regular season. And then the worst news to come out of Bears camp. Dave and I have been saying it for weeks and weeks. You can go back to the beginning of Sports Frenzy, the podcast. We said, pay Roquan Smith. Pay him. You're not paying anybody else. You traded Khalil Mack. You traded Leonard Floyd. You had the best young linebacking core a few years ago in the NFL between Floyd, Roquan Smith, Khalil Mack. You shipped Khalil Mack off to the Chargers for what I thought was nothing, or at least below market value. Same with Leonard Floyd. And now you've pissed off Roquan Smith to the point that he has requested a trade. He's pulling a Kevin Durant. He wants out. In this case, I can't blame him. This team shows no promise. They show no organization. They show no will or want to win. And you can, again, keep showing me Virginia McCaskey, old frail Virginia McCaskey up in the owner's booth. Oh, we all love Virginia McCaskey. She has got a bunch of idiots working for her. Ted Phillips, her son, who don't know a goddamn thing about football. They're more worried about where should we build a new stadium. Well, if the team sucks after the first couple games in your new spanking, brand new, freaking awesome stadium out in the suburbs of Chicago, nobody's going to give one rat's ass. And you're going to see everything, ticket sales, concessions, plummet because you've mismanaged this team. The Bears have lucked into 2 Super Bowls, 1 victory, 1 appearance beyond that. The Bears are one of the 5 worst run franchises in the modern Super Bowl era. And I defy anybody to argue with me on that. You can say Cleveland, you can say Detroit, you could say the Texans, and the Texans haven't even been around that long. The Bears have been around for the entire Super Bowl era. Technically, the Browns haven't even been around for the entire Super Bowl era. This team is a joke, and I'm tired of rooting for losers. I'm tired of the Cubs who go, we're going to go through a little spurt where we're going to spend money, stupid money, dumb money. Oh, but we're trying. We're trying. The Bears can't even make that excuse. The Bears are cheap. The Bears are stupid. The Bears don't know what they're doing. They can't bring in a high-level head coach because nobody would want to coach under this regime, coach these players. They're going to destroy Justin Fields, which is an absolute shame for him, just like it was an absolute shame for Mitch Trubisky. Meet the new boss. Same as the old boss. Out with pace, in with polls, same stupid moves, same stupid front office. Here's what's coming next for the Bears, kids. A little look into the future. Up until about a week ago, there were only 3 stadiums, 32 teams, 3 stadiums. Yes, I know SoFi is shared. The Giants and the Jets share a stadium, so I get it. 32 teams doesn't mean 32 stadiums, but there were 3 stadiums that had not sold out to corporate naming rights. Now there's only 2. And wouldn't you know, they would happen to be arguably the 2 most historic franchises in the NFL, the Packers and the Bears. Lambeau Field, Soldier Field, because now the Bengals will no longer play in Paul Brown Stadium. It will now be Paycor Stadium. I heard somebody say this is because they've got to find the money that they're going to have to give to Joe Burrow in a couple years. Probably accurate and probably correct. There is something so disheartening about naming rights to stadiums. Luckily, I've still got the Cubs in Wrigley Field. How long is that going to last? I don't know. I make fun of the Conquistador because the White Sox arguably have the worst name in all of sports with Guaranteed Rate Field. But if it lets you pay for a player or two, I don't know. Can you make an argument against it? Of course, the Hall of Fame game was last Thursday. Not exciting. Couple interesting little tidbits. Number one, of course, every year it seems like the Hall of Fame game gets delayed. It seems like Mother Nature, the weather gods, will not let the Hall of Fame game go on time or at all. Of course, we remember the field was so bad years back they had to cancel the game altogether. This year's 2022 incarnation, Las Vegas and Jacksonville, was delayed due to weather, lightning. They did get the game in. The Raiders beat the Jaguars 27-11. The interesting thing about this, especially if you are a fantasy football player, we all are. In a couple of weeks, we will recap our 2022 fantasy draft for you. And in doing so, give you our 2022 fantasy football preview. But let me give you a little hint, a little warning about something. I don't like the fact that Josh McDaniels played Josh Jacobs in the first game as much as he did. Now, coming from the Belichick tree of coaches, McDaniels thinks he's outsmarting everybody. It's pretty obvious to me he's showcasing Jacobs for a trade. He's got to have somebody else on that roster he likes more at running back. So I'd be very careful in your fantasy draft of taking Josh Jacobs too early. Of course, we had to have on the Hall of Fame weekend, not only the induction ceremony, and I'm not going to get into that. I said in the past when they announced this class that I thought it was the weakest class of Hall of Fame inductees I've ever seen in my life. I'm not a big fan of really any of these guys. Cliff Branch, Bryant Young, Tony Baselli. There are times when the baseball model to me works better where you act like it's a privilege to be in the Hall of Fame. And sometimes you don't have a set number of guys. Sometimes it's one, sometimes it's two, sometimes it's five, sometimes it's none. This would have been a good year to whittle down the number for the NFL a little bit. But then another thing that happens usually about this time of year is we get now it's called points of clarification. In the past, it was called points of emphasis for the referees, for the umpires, for the on-field officials. This year, kids, watch out. Referees have been told to focus on illegal contact in 2022, which means that's going to drag the pace of the game down. That means cornerbacks, safeties, linebackers are going to have to be really careful up there at the line of scrimmage. How much they push off, touch, grab. Because it sounds like the NFL was not happy that those numbers went down last year. They want them back up. Okay. To me, it's stupid. To me, it's idiotic. So you're going to demand that every year you have a certain number of penalties called, or a certain range of penalties called based on illegal contact. And because we had 1 year where that number went down, how do you know the defensive backs didn't play that much better and figured out how to cover better? To me, it's a little bit degrading to the players, the defensive players. What's the one constant rip on the NFL that you can always say? There is holding on the offensive line every down in every game. Yet they pick and choose when they're going to call it. They could call it on almost every down in almost every game. So this whole point of clarification, point of emphasis bullshit needs to go away. It really does. You're going to have years where maybe the players are actually better, or maybe they're worse. Roger Goodell's lucky. Roger Goodell has got a cash cow, and despite all of the things that he has managed to screw up, to fuck up, they just rake in the money. They just rake in the money. And I've stood up for the guy, but boy, it's amazing how many missteps and mistakes he and his management staff make in the NFL. We talked about big-time receiver contract extensions last week. We talked about DK Metcalf. We talked about Deebo Samuel. Well, Deontay Johnson of the Steelers got paid as well. He got extended, from what I've seen, 2 years, approximately $37 million, taking him through 2024. And then finally, we talk about the disparity of treatment among certain individuals, not just in football, not just in sports, but in life. The rich get away with what they want and don't get punished like the middle or the lower class would for the exact same offense, because they can't afford the attorney, they can't afford the legal firm to find the loopholes for them. So my favorite dipshit, Aaron Rodgers, yes, I really wanted to put him in the dumbasses this week, but it just seems so repetitive. Aaron Rodgers bragging about how he was taking psychotropic drugs in Peru and how it opened up his mind and how he now knows how to feel real, true love, and he felt the hands of his ancestors on him. He took something called ayahuasca. Please forgive me, all you drug addicts in Peru for mispronouncing possibly this natural drug that Aaron Rodgers took. Of course, we're talking about Peru, the country, not Peru, Indiana. But somehow, no violation. The NFL says, no, we're not going to do anything. He admits taking a psychotropic drug. You get guys who accidentally take something in cold medicine that sets off bells and whistles and alarms, and they get nailed with suspensions. Aaron Rodgers admits to taking a psychotropic drug, but because it's natural. Ayahuasca's natural. No NFL drug policy violation. Horseshit! Once again, you prove double standards. All right, time to move on to NASCAR, because I really don't want to talk anymore about Aaron fucking Rodgers. Makes me sick to my stomach. And I'm not even into the football season yet, when he's going to kick my team's ass 2 times. Once in Milwaukee, Green Bay, and once in Chicago. And we know they're not going to meet in the playoffs because the Bears will be lucky to win 3 games. So anyway, NASCAR. Well, kids, we have got some kind of a clusterfuck in the standings with 3 races to go in the NASCAR Cup regular season. Recapping Michigan. Kevin Harvick snaps a 65-race winless streak, becomes the 15th different winner of the 2022 season. That means there is only one at-large spot available right now for anybody who has not won based on points. Right now, that person is Ryan Blaney. Martin Truex Jr., who is in the top 10 in points, is out of the playoffs right now based on this insipid logic that NASCAR put into play a few years back. I've never liked this system. Can't stand it. I hate how basically they blame Matt Kenseth for it because Matt Kenseth won the championship based on points, but he didn't dominate. He just had a solid finish every race, top 5, top 3, but because he didn't win enough, NASCAR decides we've got to start emphasizing winning. All right, now you've got a situation you've never dealt with before with 15 different winners for 16 spots, 3 races to go. And we know Daytona is going to be an absolute cluster in that anybody can win that race. Anybody can get lucky and win that race. Don't get me wrong, I am extremely happy Kevin Harvick won. But you want to look at the year he's had, he has not had a great year. You want to look at somebody who does not deserve to be in the playoffs despite the fact he's got 2 wins. That's Denny Hamlin. Denny Hamlin has had a miserable year, but he got 2 wins. Look at where he is in the points. He has had an awful year except for the fact he got 2 wins. You can say, okay, that's great. He showed up. He showed up for those 2 weeks and he won. If this was football, which of course this whole playoff structure was technically patterned after to add more excitement to the NASCAR Cup Series, that's like saying, well, the Texans played really well for 2 weeks, so they should be in the playoffs. No. I still think this is weighted way too heavily on wins versus points. And I'm hearing a lot of people, especially on this broadcast that NBC and USA had at Michigan, they're starting to give some pushback to NASCAR on this. It is not right that Martin Truex could get knocked out of the playoff picture altogether if he doesn't win here in the next 3 races. Now, the good thing for him is he's really good at Richmond. Race 24, we'll have those picks in a second here. So, maybe justice will be served, but then how does Ryan Blaney feel about that? Because then Ryan Blaney gets knocked out, even though he's got more points than probably half of the winners that will qualify for the playoffs. Kurt Busch was out of this race again, 3 races in a row. Ty Gibbs filling in yet again. Really starting to worry about Kurt Busch. I hope he can get over these concussion syndromes. 3 weeks is a long, long time. That tells me it was very severe. Not trying to just look at the competition angle, but if he misses another couple races here, what does that do for him? I mean, if he's out the next 3 races, will he still have enough points? Because Ty Gibbs' points don't go to Kurt Busch. Will he still be in the top 30? Despite the fact he has a win. Now, if he's in the top 30, he makes it. But if he puts up another 3 zeros, could we possibly be looking at a situation where Kurt Busch gets knocked out completely out of the top 30 because he missed 6 races. I don't think it'll happen. NASCAR can barely get 30 drivers to commit every week. But still, another little wrinkle to think about. Of course, as bad of a year, even though he's got to win, bad of a year as Kyle Busch has had, could have been a lot worse. He and his family supposedly reported to be at the Mall of America when somebody opened fire last week. Thank goodness, everybody, for the most part, got out safe and secure, including Kyle Busch and his family. Here's the thing that upsets me yet again. Okay, Kyle Busch and his family got out. What about the thousands and thousands and thousands of other people? Do we not care about them too? But no, the celebrity, Kyle Busch, we've got to focus on the fact that Kyle Busch and his family got out okay. How about we worry about everybody and not just the fucking celebrities? How about that? How about we care about everybody equally? I thought that's what we were supposed to do. Yet the media, oh my God, celebrity got out alive. Thank God. If there'd been hundreds of other people killed, they could have gone on a rant about gun control, but at least the celebrity got out alive. That's why I hate the media. And I also hate Bubba Wallace. Bubba Wallace had the pole for Michigan. Bubba Wallace pulled a dumb, stupid move with just over 30 laps to go that basically knocked out not only himself, but Joey Logano and my pick, Kyle Larson. Basically trying to block everybody behind him. He was the one that let Kevin Harvick, as he blocked Kyle Larson, tried to block Joey Logano. He was the one that slowed everybody up, let Kevin Harvick get out to an unbelievable lead, and of course, Harvick never looked back. Not Harvick's fault. Then Bubba Wallace, we've got to see, the Bubba Wallace press conference after the race where he's so distraught, not because of anything he did, but because it means so much to him that he could have won the race, but he didn't. Bubba Wallace is a manipulator. Bubba Wallace, ever since the noose situation, proved to me that he is a manipulator. And don't call me racist for saying it, because I judge people based on their actions. Bubba Wallace is a manipulator. He's playing everybody. He's faking emotions, faking anger. He doesn't give one rip about anybody. I can't imagine him in the drivers' meetings being anybody's friend. I can't imagine anybody liking him. He just seems like a supreme and total jackass. And he keeps pulling stuff like this, the fake tears, the crocodile tears, the more I root against him. All right, finally, wrapping up segment 2, our picks for race 24, coming up August the 14th, the Federated Auto Parts 400 from Richmond. Of course, we're down to 7 contestants for our NASCAR competition here in 2022. 6 of the 7 panelists still participating, have got their picks in. We've still got about 3 hours till the deadline, so no worries. I mentioned Martin Truex Jr., very good at Richmond, so 3 of the 6 panelists who I've got picks for have selected Martin Truex Jr. That would be Dave, Bill, and Doug. Aaron, our leader, who scored a win last week with Kevin Harvick at Michigan. He is taking Denny Hamlin. Nick, who also scored a win with Kevin Harvick last week, is taking Brad Keselowski. I'm the points leader, but of course, when we reset for the playoffs Aaron will take the lead. I will fall back to fourth right now. I am going with Dirty Bush, Kyle Busch. Yes, I just railed on him and the survival of the Mall of America shooting, but I think it's time for a bounce back for Kyle Busch. I'm hoping for it this week. Plus, I didn't have a Martin Truex pick left. Hang out, kids. One more segment coming. Stay tuned.
This is Coach K, and after my retirement from college basketball, I plan to become an analyst on Sports Frenzy 2.0 with the Maestro and the Conquistador every Thursday on Spotify, Anchor, Google, Radio Public, Pocket Cast, Breaker, Apple, Overcast, and Castbox. And don't forget to check out our Facebook page.
All right, final segment here. Sports Frenzy 2.0 this week. Episode 32 of 2022 taping here August the 10th. This will hit tomorrow morning the 11th. As always, check us out on Facebook or Meta, whatever the hell it's going to end up being in a couple weeks. And listen to us wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. Of course, that would include Spotify, Anchor, Google, Radio Public, Pocket Cast, Apple, Overcast, Castbox, Amazon, Audible, and Stitcher. Doesn't have the same ring to it without Dave harmonizing with me this week. College football, as we tackle some miscellaneous sports tidbits for you. The coaches' preseason poll is out. Not a lot of surprises, not much shocking. Alabama number 1. Of course, Ohio State, Georgia, Clemson, all in the top 4 along with the Crimson Tide. Please tell me that doesn't shock you. If it does, that means you haven't been watching college football for the last 15 years. What was shocking is that Texas actually got a vote as the number 1 team, and it was not their head coach, Steve Sarkisian. He did not have a vote in the poll this year. So that's interesting. Who thinks Texas, who couldn't even play 500 football last year and do not have Arch Manning yet, are going to be the number 1 team in the country? The 2 teams that we follow here locally, Notre Dame came in at number 5 in the preseason coaches poll. And of course, my team, the Miami Hurricanes, are in just ahead of number 18, Texas. The Canes are number 17 in the preseason coaches poll. Again, not a lot really shocking. This is the state of college football right now. We've talked about it. We've ranted and raved about it. It's just a joke. There are a dozen schools that have a chance at a national championship. Everybody else just hoping to play well enough to keep the administration and the boosters happy. And hoping that all their star players don't transfer each and every year when they don't perform up to a 10 or 11 win season. Of course, more golf. Seems like each and every week we're talking about golf because of the LIV invasion. I'm not a legal expert, but a judge ruled to deny the requested restraining order that 3 live golfers wanted that would have allowed them into the FedEx Cup playoffs on the PGA Tour. Now, these 3 golfers qualified based on their performance earlier in the year for the FedEx playoffs, but of course, we know this bitter, acrimonious fight going on between the PGA Tour and the LIV Golf Tour. It's only going to get worse before it gets better. I don't know. I'm not a fan of the judicial process. Just like everything else in this country, it seems biased. It seems if you get the right judge, wink, wink, nod, nod, they'll rule in your favor or against you. I would like to know the details. I have not read them, I'm sorry. I would like to know the details of why and how the judge ruled the way that he or she did. Are you saying that you can't work for the competition? You could say that, and that would actually be a fair argument. I can't work for AutoZone for 30 hours a week and then probably go over to Advanced Auto Parts and work for them for 20. Maybe I could. I don't think either company would like it. But then you look at the creative types, directors, screenwriters, actors, they jump all around from different movie studio to different movie studio. So again, I would just be interested to hearing the logic and how this judge looks at these LIV golfers and what they're allowed to do in terms of free enterprise as individual athletes and what they're not allowed to do. Of course, we talked about this a couple weeks ago. The rumors are heating up. Now it sounds like for sure Cameron Smith, who just won the British Open, will indeed be jumping to the LIV Tour, but he will not announce it. Smart guy, especially given what we just talked about. He will not announce it until after the FedEx Cup playoffs so he can participate. And then the minute the FedEx Cup playoffs are done, he is out by all accounts. And then one final note on the golf front. Again, something else we've mentioned in the past, but it has actually happened. This past weekend, Nick Faldo officially is done. He is retired from the CBS golf booth. It has got to be difficult. It has got to be hard to be quiet, be reserved, yet dissect the game of golf, discuss the pressure the players are under. Very few can do it and do it well, and Nick Faldo was one of those. So, as a guy who just watches the majors, I will say that in my limited golf viewership, I will miss Nick Faldo. Female athletes. Serena Williams strongly hinted that she is going to retire after this year's U.S. Open coming up in a few weeks. And we've mentioned her on this show countless times. Greatest female athlete ever. You could even take the female out of it. One of the greatest athletes of all time. There will be the appropriate level of celebration and honor after the U.S. Open or when she is beaten or wins the U.S. Open for Serena Williams. bright young star in women's basketball. Terrible news. Playing for the best program you could play for as a female basketball player, UConn. Paige Buchers, one of the best, if not the best player in women's college basketball last year, tore her ACL last week. She will be out for the entire 2022-2023 season. Terrible, terrible news. We hope here at Sports Frenzy she recovers fully, goes on to the best possible career she can. We mock the WNBA. You can hate us for it. That's fine. But if you become a legend in a sport, doesn't matter what sport it is, pickleball, squash, lacrosse, no matter how many or how few people watch on a national level and international level, if you are one of the best at that sport, that is something. It's something noteworthy. So again, let's hope Paige Buchers gets back next season, gets in the WNBA, plays the Olympics, whatever it takes. Extremely promising future for her, again, if she recovers from this awful knee injury. And then finally, I'm just going to put it out there. It's been done to death here on Sports Frenzy. It's been done to death in the media. Thankfully, things have calmed down here over the last 3 or 4 days. Brittany Griner, another women's basketball legend, found guilty in a Russian court, sentenced to 9 years in prison. I will just reiterate what we have said on this show week after week after week. Number one, stop making excuses. She broke the law in another country. It doesn't matter what the laws are in the U.S. She was in Russia. She broke Russian law. It doesn't matter about American law when you're in Russia. I can't emphasize how stupid it is for people to try to say, well, a doctor here in America prescribed it for her. It doesn't matter. It was in Russia. Number two, do not let the merchant of death go so you can get Brittany Griner back just because it'll make LeBron James happy or just because it'll make a bunch of celebrities happy. The cost of life, if one person dies because you let the merchant of death, one of the most notorious gun runners, go in this prisoner exchange for Brittany Griner, one person dies, I will hate this administration for doing it. Brittany Griner's life is not any more important than anybody else's. And if you let a notorious gun runner go back to his home country and start plying his trade again, the blood is on your hands, not mine. And it's on Brittany Griner's hands too. Moments of silence. Couple of old school NASCAR Cup drivers from the 60s and 70s passed away this past week. Neil Castles, Buddy Arrington. If you know those names, you are a diehard NASCAR Cup fan. Thoughts and prayers to the families of Neil Castles and Buddy Arrington. All right, you know what that means, kids. Moments of silence are done. It is time to do our awkward pivot into the Red Foreman dumbasses of the week. And boy, do I have a lot of dumbasses for you. I wish Dave was here so we could play dumbass or not, but I'll make do. First up, an amazing situation a week ago, August the 3rd. The Astros hosting the Red Sox. Candidate for MVP, Yordan Alvarez, up at the plate. Nobody notices. Nobody notices. Nobody on either bench. None of the umpires, none of the officials on the field, none of the players. Who knows if anybody in the stands noticed? You would think some of the fans in the stands would have been screaming and yelling. Alvarez got 4 strikes. He got 4 strikes. But because the home plate umpire didn't gesticulate enough on the 3rd strike, Alvarez stayed pretty much in the box. Nobody questioned it. Now he ended up making it out anyway, but still. You wonder why I'm a proponent of the automated strike zone. We can't even get 3 strikes right with the human element. And God help me, I don't want to hear anybody say, well, that's what makes the game great. No, it makes the game dumb. So everybody involved here, the players, the benches, the umpires, they're all dumbasses for not seeing Yordan Alvarez getting 4 strikes last Wednesday. Next up, the sad state of NHL team, the Arizona Coyotes. Yes, I know they have been in financial distress for years. They are a mess. They make the Tampa Bay Rays look like a well-run organization. But a financial dispute with their Glendale, Arizona arena. They have been booted from said arena. So for the next 3 years, you can check out pictures of the stadium, quote unquote, stadium, online. For at least the next 3 years, the lowly Arizona Coyotes will be playing at a multi-purpose stadium on the campus of Arizona State University that seats a whopping 5,000 people. Yes, a professional team, one of the teams in the Big Four in America, NFL, MLB, NBA, NHL, will be playing at least 3 years in an arena that only seats 5,000 people. Now, I know some of you, again, going back to the Rays, are going to say, well, the Rays only draw 5,000. Yeah, and I'm sure the Coyotes, as abysmal as they are, aren't going to draw much more. Dumbasses all around again. Dumbasses to the Coyotes ownership. Phoenix, Arizona, Glendale government and management for not figuring out a way to not become a laughingstock in the NHL. All right, Jalen Rose is an idiot. I've mentioned this on the show many times in the past, and he just keeps proving me right. Jalen Rose I don't know how he got a job in media. He's not well spoken. He's not smart. Now he's decided to say, when we rank the greatest of all time, what term do we use? Who's the Mount Rushmore of baseball? Who's the Mount Rushmore of lead singers? Who's the Mount Rushmore of movie directors? Jalen Rose is offended and says we need to stop using the term Mount Rushmore because it's offensive to Native Americans because the land that Mount Rushmore is on was taken from the Native Americans. Okay, so if you want to follow that train of thought, then how much of the West and the Northwest should be considered offensive and we should stop populating it, using it for farmland, using it for cattle, because it was taken from the Native Americans. I'm not saying in that respect he's wrong, but if we're going to go back and revisit history that far back, then society collapses. We've said this on the show multiple times. Slavery wasn't good. The Holocaust wasn't good. The way we treated Native Americans wasn't good. But there's only so much apologizing we can do, because none of us who are alive today had anything directly to do with it. And if we're going to start blaming each other for things that happened 200, 250, 150 years ago, it's illogical, it's stupid, and it will fuck us up and divide us more than you will ever know. So Jalen Rose, shut up. Stop being an idiot. Try to get a thesaurus. Try to get a book on grammar and figure out how to put two coherent sentences together without sounding like a moron. Dumbass. Terrell Owens, boy, I thought we were done with him. Man, I thought we were done with him. That's my quarterback. That's my quarterback. Falling on the Dallas star. Of course, when he wasn't playing for Dallas. When he's playing for Dallas, it was awesome. He was playing for the 49ers, of course. Couldn't wait to disparage the Cowboys logo. Another consummate jackass of epic proportions now gets in an altercation, supposedly almost ran down a pedestrian. She got upset with him, screaming and yelling at him. Of course, it's her fault. It's her fault. Because if somebody almost ran us down, we wouldn't get upset. We'd go, oh, that's okay. My bad. Rich, arrogant athlete. You own the roads. By all means, run me down. But it's not where it stopped. He had to call up TMZ Sports because, of course, Terrell Owens is an attention whore like most of these celebrities and athletes are. And he claims he could have died arguing with this female pedestrian because if the police had come and seen the black man arguing with the white woman, they would have shot him dead. I don't have the time, the patience to dissect how idiotic Terrell Owens is in this situation. All I can tell you is he is an absolute, complete, and total dumbass. Another football player. Beloved. Oh, Marshawn Lynch. He is such a funny, hysterical, Great guy. He's in all these commercials for potato chips, and he's just such a fun-loving guy. DUIs are nothing to joke about. And again, check out the weekend edition for my rant on that. Yet celebrities and athletes think they're immortal. They think they're invincible, and they do it all the time. You and I do it, we're in jail. Our license gone. We don't get a slap on the wrist. Let's see what happens with Marshawn Lynch. Again, who knows who he could have killed. Arrested in Las Vegas for a DUI in an unregistered vehicle. You want to forgive and forget? We're all human. We all make mistakes. That's fine, except he pulled the same shit in Oakland 10 years ago. So he's a multiple offender. You can kill somebody. You are not invincible. And the people you would kill driving drunk are not invincible. And we need to bring the hammer down on celebrities and athletes who think that it's okay to drive around drunk, drive around at 100 plus miles an hour. Ask Henry Ruggs about that. I will call out celebrities and athletes each and every time they pull this crap because it's got to stop. You got to be responsible. And fun-loving Marshawn Lynch can kiss my ass. Powerful, great running back, but a dumbass. Oklahoma assistant coach Cale Gundy. I don't know how to feel about this, other than I think this is wrong. He is not the dumbass here. Fully. Cale Gundy, who has been an assistant coach at Oklahoma forever, had to resign. Excuse me, I'm getting verklempt. Because he caught one of his players in a meeting reading his phone, his tablet, looking at the screen instead of paying attention in the meeting. So Cale Gundy basically went over, grabbed the item. Basically, what's so interesting? What's so important that you can't pay attention in our meeting? And he started reading off the screen what the player had been typing or reading. And unfortunately, he read it aloud, and it contained the N-word. So he resigned. The head coach accepted his resignation. Venables just came over from Clemson. He should not have read it. But I do not think it's a fireable offense. I don't see how it's a fireable offense. He did not write the word. He was reading somebody else's phone or tablet screen. And how about the repercussions for the fucking player who actually had it on their phone or tablet? I am tired of the double standard where certain words are okay for certain people to say, but everybody else, no, you can't. How about you make it the word is evil and wrong for everybody? But no, that makes too much goddamn sense, doesn't it? All of us should stay away from using that word. All of us. Black, white, I don't care who you are. Stop using that word. Stop typing it. Stop saying it. Stop using it in music. Don't tell me certain people are allowed to use it, others aren't. Man just lost his job because he was reading what somebody else had written who's allowed to use the word, but he wasn't. Dumbasses all around. Finally, end up with a little bit of fun here. The Kansas City Royals. I don't know how much of a dumbass call this is, but you tell me if you would eat this. The Kansas City Royals are currently selling a barbecue Reese's sandwich, pulled pork, Reese's peanut butter cups, bacon, and Sweet Baby Ray's barbecue sauce. Ugh, I don't know. Boy, I don't know if I would eat that. I'm sure there's somebody out there that thinks it's delectable and delightful, but I don't know. That bacon and Reese's peanut butter cups together does not sound like something my stomach would enjoy. But hopefully you've enjoyed this. Check out the weekend edition this coming Saturday morning. I'm the Maestro. See you later, kids.